How is everyone doing today? Thank you and welcome to Zyxel's product introduction of our hybrid switches. Good to have you here this evening. Again, if you're having issues with sound, please let me know either through the chat box or if you can raise your hand right now. I have one person raising their hand. If you guys can raise your hand, I would love to know that you guys are okay in hearing my voice. Great, fantastic, thank you. Today is our introduction to our hybrid switch product, and so we wanted to tell you about how it can benefit you as a partner or as a customer on how this product can really come into play. You may be already familiar with it in terms of our wireless and our wireless product line. Having the ability to use the hybrid mode switch. So this webinar will be recorded and it can be viewed online after it's been posted. So if you want to share it with your team members, that is what you can do after that. Any questions that you have can be answered at the end, or if there's time in between, if it's not such a difficult question, I can answer them in line as well, but use the Q&A box that you see there to submit those questions and we'll try to get to those as we can. So let's go ahead and move on to our introduction. I just wanted to cover a little bit about Zyxel if you're not familiar with us. We've been around since 1989, so we're actually in our 29th year now. We've powered over 700,000 businesses to use Zyxel products worldwide. We have 1,500 employees serving 150 markets. We have over 100 million devices making connections globally. We also cover a wide range of product lines, both on the telco products, like service provider products, business connectivity, which is what I'm in charge of. By the way, my name is Tri Nguyen. I'm the product marketing manager here at Zyxel for security and for networking switches here in the channel. We also deal with products in the business sector, like the networking products, anything that connects to, any kind of network that you have out there, or even in the connected home. So we kind of go all across the broad range of anything that you have connected to a network. We also pride ourselves in our R&D capabilities. Pretty much a third of our workforce are software and hardware engineers, and 150 of them are also 150 technical support people worldwide as well. So we're providing you with a lot of support, a lot of feature functions. So as partners, we love to get the feedbacks from our customers and our partners about how we can make the product better, more flexible, the features and functions that help you to do business, help you to sell our products. So we want to come alongside you in delivering a product that makes sense and is in the right position, the right price point to meeting the demands of your customers. So we offer a wide comprehensive portfolio, anything like I said before, my motto is anything that's connected to a network. Zyxel has product that can fulfill that, from the security side, the switching with PoE side, wireless connectivity, hotspot gateway functions, and also all the networking managements, whether it be in a standalone, in a VM, or in the cloud. We have products that fulfill all those needs for the small business area. And that's where we're really focused on, is in that small business sector, anywhere between 5 to, let's say, 500 users. That's the little sweet spot that we have and where we put most of our focus in. Of course, we do have some other products that kind of move along to the higher end, but primarily we're focused in that small business sector. So I wanted to introduce to you our brand new hybrid switch series. Our hybrid switch series now is going to be called our GS1920 version 2, and also our XGS1930 series. So we'll talk a little bit about each one of those. But in general, they inherit the features that you're maybe already used to with our GS1920 series. But we've added some new concepts in that. We added kind of a new look and feel. So you'll see it has like a carbon fiber front panel. The LEDs are also enhanced as well, so that it gives you more information back from looking at the switch itself. We've also added a new product in the portfolio, the GS1920-8HP V2. So it is, even though it's numbered V2, it's just so it's part of the whole version 2 family, but it is a fanless 8-port PoE switch with all the ports capable of PoE. So that's one piece that we were missing before in the 1920 series. And it's also, and more importantly, it's the hybrid design. It's able to go from a standalone to a cloud switch, both free and paid cloud, all in the single hardware. So it has that flexibility to be moved from one to the other. There's also it's also more compact than the previous generation model, so the depth of which the product is made is also not as, so it's not as deep. So meaning that you can put it in, obviously still in the rack mounts, but if you're deciding to put it in different kinds of cabinets or mounted on the wall, they're not as big profile, so you can install them a lot better. So it's a lot more compact, especially in the PoE models. So taking a look at the 1920 V2 series, just at a glance, it supports Nebula Flex, right? That term Nebula Flex is basically the technology that allows for you to go from a standalone product to a free Nebula cloud. So you can switch between that. So you can move it depending on how your customers' needs, you can move it to the cloud. And then of course you can upgrade that to the full Nebula cloud. And I'll talk to you about Nebula itself and see why we think that that's where you would enjoy, especially if you're providing a service to the customer where Nebula comes into play. It's a big factor there. So Nebula allows for that simple deployment. It allows for you to do auto provisioning, management, information from the internet, from pretty much anywhere that you're connected. In the standalone mode, it's easy to manage still. It still has that web GUI interface that you're used to in a web managed switch. It comes with different fiber uplinks, up to 6 fiber uplinks for the 48 port models, 4 for the 24 port, and 2 for the 8 port models. There's also the smart fan design. I know some of the feedback that our partners have said to us is that our product, when the fans are on, it can be pretty loud. So installing them in more office environments where it's inside the office could be a little bit, it might be loud for whatever the office they're using it, if it's not installed in a server closet or anything like that. But we've enhanced it. We've created smart fan throttling and try to make it very quiet in terms of how it operates and still be able to maintain a lot of the heat dissipation and functionality there. There are also models that are in that PoE space as well, like the 8-port one that is fanless. So if you need something that's in the office environment, needs to power up some PoE devices and cameras or whatnot, and you want it to be silent, that is your option there. And it supports high power PoE, so 802.3AT standard, up to 30 watts per port, of course, up to the maximum budget. And we, in this series is, it's fairly high wattage compared to a lot of the competitors. So keep in mind when you're seeing, the different prices that may be out there, we are also price competitive to those models, but we're at a much better advantage because of our higher PoE. So in a lot of cases, we actually have either double the power that the competitor has and equal to or even less in price. So, keep an eye out on that. On the 1930 series, so you'll notice the naming of this is an XGS 1930. What the X means is that it has 10 gig uplinks. The Roman numeral for 10 is X. So 1930 series is our web managed with 10 gig, and now it supports also Nebula Flex. So it's the same kind of switch as you saw earlier, but instead of just gigabit fiber uplinks, it now has anywhere, up to 4 10 gig SFP plus transceiver modules for uplink. And of course, we also sell the cables that have the transceivers on both ends already, so you can, really plug and play, hook them up if you're going from switch to switch without having to worry about making fiber cables. Now, of course, you can always draw. If you have a cable pool for fiber and you have terminations, you can go fiber to whatever building to building access, however you want to cluster these together. And again, it follows the same kind of smart design, still has that GUI interface, allows for you to still tie into the Nebula Cloud for free, but then you can also buy the full-fledged license for Nebula and manage everything, including all of the other devices that are supporting Nebula right now in the same kind of interface network. Again, smart fan design as well. It has that high PoE port, again, 30 watts per port options, and defaulted with consumption mode. And I'll tell you what consumption mode does. It also has PoE power usage indicators, and I think in a zoom picture you'll be able to see how it's different from the current web managed switch. So Nebula Flex, I talked about what Nebula Flex was. It's really, again, that easy, the flexibility to be able to move from standalone to Nebula. So in some cases, you need to be deploying for customers that say, well, you know what, I'm not ready for the cloud. But in your stance, you're like, cloud's the future. You can still deploy them a standalone product. And then someday you can still come back and upsell them. Or if you're moving towards a managed service kind of offering, you can upgrade them to the cloud so that you can get visibility, do your auto provisioning, handle all that from a single pane interface in the Nebula cloud. So again, you have that flexibility without having to buy, two different types of products. You can just get this Nebula Flex and upgrade it after the fact. Now, of course, if you're going, you want to go pretty much full Nebula, the best option is to go buy the Nebula switch themselves, and which we'll all talk about later as well. Those come pre-bundled with all the services, so you might as well buy those ones if that's where you're going to be heading. So that would be your option. So when do you go cloud or standalone? Really, it's about management. It's about visibility. If somebody goes, you know what, I just want you to set it up and you're never going to touch it again, forget about it, and you're not providing any kind of, visibility or reporting, that kind of thing, then standalone might be the best option for them, at least for the time being. But everybody wants that kind of visibility. They want to know what's going on their network. They want to know when things are down, if ports are down, especially if you have access points or video cameras plugged into those. You want to know when and have that visibility to be able to troubleshoot remotely, because ultimately, if you're going to be managing that customer's network, they're going to call on you. So you want to have that visibility, even if they're not paying for it, you may want it still. But again, Nebula Flex gets you to be able to go to that full Nebula cloud with a simple license upgrade. So the hybrid switch is really flexible in that sense, and I just can't beat it enough. It's free cloud. We have that free cloud option, so they can still try it for free, whether or not they want to use it. Of course, there are some features, and a lot of the loggings will be less. It will only hold about 1 week's worth of logs, which is probably good enough, especially in a break-fix scenario where you have something happen within that week. You can climb on in, you can see the logs, see what's going on, be able to troubleshoot all of that. But it also allows for you to future-proof, because you know that the cloud is the future. So people are moving that way. So this product line will seed the network, make it ready for moving to the cloud when the customer is ready. We also have flexibility in the ports themselves. Obviously, a lot of different options, the 24 port with PoE, different fiber uplink capabilities, like I mentioned, PoE 48 ports, etc. So a wide range of it, and of course we offer now the 8 port. In the 10 gig model range, we have 4 models, again with and without PoE. They're all gigabit ports, so keep that in mind. They're all gigabit ports except for those 4 SFP ports. Those are 10 gig capable. Of course, you can then uplink them as well. You can uplink them as well, within each other at a 10 gig speed, or you can even do link aggregation. Seth did ask a question: does a previous statement about the default state mode mean all settings are removed if we switch from NCC to standalone? Yeah, typically there are some that may go through, but typically if you're installing, you're not moving from you're not just upgrading them to the cloud. You may have to reconfigure some things, because there are some features that are within the standalone product that are not necessarily in the cloud version. It's more for the cloud allows for you to get to a little bit more simple. It's all about provisioning. It's all about control. Of course, we're enhancing it as well. So if there are some features that we know that the customer really needs, which the product has gone through quite a few cycles already in terms of Nebula in general. That way we can move customers to that without an issue. So if you go from NCC to standalone, if you go from like the cloud version to standalone, there may be, again, some configuration. I don't think that I'm not sure. I have to double check to make sure that the configuration files, how the configs are either transferred or it becomes basically a standalone product, which you have to reconfigure. It's more about moving them, be able to use the same hardware for the different scenarios that you may have in the different network customers. Now, the advantage, though, with having that flexibility is in case one customer says, I don't want to subscribe to your service anymore. I just, you can, if you're providing a managed service to them, you can take that product out of their network and move it to another customer and then configure it however you want, whether it's standalone or in the cloud. I'd mentioned before that it was also defaulted with intelligence PoE or intelligent PoE functions. And what that means is that by default, it's able to maximize the power budget of the PoE, of the PoE switch. And it does this in real time. It looks at the usage, the actual draw of the device, and be able to provide that information to you. But more importantly, it just takes it out of the budget as much as the product needs. In a lot of competitor products, they'll be classified, let's say, for example, and we'll just budget out the maximum wattage that is needed for that kind of classification. Ours are intelligent about that, and we only use it in that consumption mode. We can, what that means is that you can actually power up more devices because you're maximizing how many devices you can power up. Let's go to the example I have here. So for example, let's say one of our access points, it uses 30 watts if you're using it in a classification mode. The class 4 high power PoE is 30 watts and a standard. So in that standard, if you were trying to power up 20 access points, that's going to try to, it's going to need a budget of 600 watts, right? But the actual access point only consumes or only draws maximum of 16 watts. So what that means with smart intelligent PoE that Zyxel has, we are able to power up 20 access points with only a power budget of 320. And with a switch of 375 watts, that's well within the range of what the switch can power up in terms of 20 access points. So really, again, we're maximizing the number of access points for the budget, and of course, reducing, making it more cost effective and maximizing your, your dollars at work for that kind of a power port switch. We've also enhanced some of the LEDs, like I mentioned. It displays a real-time PoE power usage just by some LEDs between, none and max. So you can see that. You can also, there's a cloud LED locator or cloud LED LED that tells you whether or not it's connected to the cloud. So you can immediately see, like, is it Nebula enabled or not, or if it's in standalone mode. There's also a restore button, and the cool thing about we've enhanced it so we can go to a last custom default. Before in the past, if you hit the restore button, it's going to go to the factory default, and that can cause problems, obviously, right? When people, poke around and say, hey, it's not working, I'm going to do the reset, it resets them to factory default, and then now the product is not configured correctly, doesn't have the right information, doesn't have your VLANs, anything like that. So it can cause a bigger headache. But in this case, you actually can copy over. Once you've installed it, it's almost like an image, right? Like a computer image. Once everything is set the way that you want to, you can then set that image, that configuration as the default, so that when people do push that restore button, it goes back to that known default. The big purpose of that is, let's say in some case, something happens where maybe either something's corrupted or somebody accidentally went in there and configured something that changed its state from when you installed it. You could use that restore button, or a technician can do it, or the customer can push the restore button, goes back to its, that particular state when you first installed it, when you first created that configuration image. So then it comes back online the way that it was day one with that configuration. So that's really helpful in that to troubleshoot. You can manage that all through the GUI interface. Another question was, will the 1920 8HP be rack mountable? And yes, it will be rack mountable. So you'll have the bunny ears for it, so you can rack mount those. In addition, we've added, like I mentioned, the maximum LEDs there. You can see the 60%, the 80%, and then the greater than 80% is where we show those. So it's really focused about being easy to use. So you don't have to have a big budget IT. You don't need to, you can use existing, really, because it is so easy to use through its web browser interface. The experience is simple. You can put it out of the box, set it up, really much, pretty much in general plug and play. Now, of course, the bigger option is to go to the Nebula, because then that's truly plug and play for the customer, and you can set that up through the cloud pretty easily. But if you're doing it in a standalone mode, there are wizards that will help you to set it up, for basic QoS settings, VLAN settings, either kind of protection wizards like LoopGuard, Broadcast Storm, etc. So it really helps you to kind of get up to speed on how to configure in these devices pretty easily for the major functions that you'll use them for. Again, we're focused on making it much more, quieter to use, especially in the office space. So it bases the speed of the fans on the temperature that it detects. So rather than just, ramping up to full speed, it will throttle it depending on how much it needs to cool it. So it helps really to reduce the noise. And of course, if you're really sensitive to that, if you're doing applications where they're doing, video recording or audio recording where noise is at a premium, you don't want any kind of dBs on the noise, then you want to go with our our fanless design. So there's fanless models that will allow for you to do the zero fan function. And we've also designed it, for reliability. A lot of people say, well, I can go with a lot cheaper product, but if you look at a lot of the MTBF product, the mean time between failures of those products, they're really low. That's why they typically only have like a 1-year warranty on them. Zyxel offers through these products a lifetime hardware warranty, which is basically 5 years after the life of the product. And typically these life cycles can be anywhere between 3 to 5 years. So you could get potentially, 8 to 10 years of warranty, of this kind of product. But we know that it's going to last even more than that, because we've taken a lot of things into care of the design of the hardware. We take the things like the EDS or ESD protection, so surge protection, electrostatic protection on the ports themselves. So we've enhanced those. We've added additional hardware monitoring and those fan controls, again, to make sure that the product is functioning, optimally and at a the right power function. We've also eliminated kind of saltwater capacitors and instead use different types of power noise filters and solid state capacitors to really ensure that the product lasts for a long time. And also a high powered, high quality, high powered power supply. So making sure that that doesn't fail as well. So it takes a lot of design care and also cost, obviously, to using these kinds of components, but yet Zyxel can still be competitive in the market today. There's some questions that are there plans for the GS2210 series as a V2 with Nebula Flex. At the moment, it's not yet planned because we do have already the kind of like the 2200 series in Nebula with the 200 series, the NSW 200. If there are demands for it, we see that most of our sales, most of our customers gravitate towards the web managed side of it. So there's not a big push at the moment. Yeah, the 2 times and the 4 times increased protection that Matthew asked a question about, those 2x and the 4x, the surge protection, what does that compare to? Yeah, it's compared to the V1 series, because before it didn't have any of, or didn't have as much. So this one we've really taken care of the ESD and the surge protection. The XGS1930 series, Matthew also asked, how does it compare to the XGS 2210 series? From a hardware perspective, it's very similar from a hardware perspective, but from a software perspective, it's much more like our web managed switches with that flex capability. So in that case, if you're looking for CLI, you're looking for some higher end security functionalities, then the 2210 series in general, the firmware there is made for those kinds of high end applications. But if you're looking for, hey, I need a very inexpensive, which this product, the XGS 1930, will be. It's very cost effective in this small business space for 10 gig. So it's going to be like a couple $100 cheaper than the XGS 2210 series. So take a look at that. It's just more cost effective if you're needing those 10 gig ports. And of course, we've taken pride in our design of our 1920 8HP as well. It's compact, it's really small, still offers 130 watts of power, again with that budget, with the consumption mode budget function there. It's quiet because it's fanless, so that makes it very durable in terms of there's no fans to fail. There's a great thermal design that comes into play, so it can be put in a cabinet or just in a, anywhere on a desk. It has overheat protection as well, so the PoE can be shut down and log a message in case there's some sort of system overheat. You can also save time on the initialization if you're just using the product in standalone mode. So let's say, you don't want to use the cloud, but you still want to be able to deploy these quickly. Our suggestion and our offering is that you would use what we call the zone utility. That's our Zyxel One Network utility. And that allows for you to detect from a layer 2 level, all the Zyxel products, all the switches that are in standalone mode, all of the firewalls, etc., access points in that network, and be able to see them from a single pane interface on, let's say, a laptop that you put onto that network. So it uses a layer or two, so you don't need to worry about IP addresses. So it really saves you time on the initial configurations of the product. So let's say you detect all the products, the zone utility will see that. In the utility, it will load up all the devices, all of the firmware version that it sees, the MAC addresses, the IP addresses, everything in the system. And as you can see here, a lot of the access points and a lot of the gateways and such, they'll have the same exact IP address, right? In typical cases, that's just going to cause a network conflict, and you can't get to any one of those interfaces, right? But with the zone utility, it doesn't matter because it's using a layer 2 discovery. And then from this interface, you can then change the IP addresses. So rather than logging in, changing your IP, logging into each one of these devices to change the IP addressing scheme, you can do it all at once under a single pane. So this gives you kind of the whole view. You can then go in and drill into each one of those, make those changes, apply to that. You can then change passwords as well. So if you have admin passwords for all of your switches within this setup, you can just stack them all up, plug your zone utility device into that and be able to manage all of them and be able to change all of the configs, change all of the passwords, or you can upload, mass upload different configurations to them as well. So really a great tool to use, especially when you're doing kind of, if you have a lab setup to kind of initially configure a product group before you ship out to the field. Yeah, so Seth did just re-emphasize that as well. Typically, a lot of these products will have like a 1.1 or 1.2 address, and you would have to go in and change all these IP addresses initially before. But if you use the zone utility, you don't even care for the IP address. You can just stack all the 1.1s together. It doesn't matter. And we'll detect them at that layer 2 MAC address level, and then you can go in and configure them through this interface without having to log into each one of those. So really that will help you greatly, especially when you're trying to deploy a lot of product. And you can do it as a wide range. So we have customers who set up a station where they would plug in, let's say, 2 access points, a switch, and a gateway into that, use the zone utility, log in, push all of the configs that they need to, and then get out, package those products back up, and then send them off to get installed. So you can do firmware updates as well with the zone utility. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, you can change the passwords. You can do a lot more. You can do different IPs. You can reboot the device. You can locate the device. So you can use this as well, like in the field. So you can, as long as you plug yourself in, you can do some of this troubleshooting information. You can do the discovery. A lot of times people will go, you know what, I forgot what I configured, and this happens a lot, is I forgot what I actually configured my switch to be, and it doesn't seem to be that address. How do I figure that out, right? Before, you had to go to the gateway and look at maybe like DHCP logs or anything like that. But with the zone utility, you can immediately detect it at the MAC layer level and find its IP address right then and there and be able to connect to it or change its IP from it. Of course, you still have to have the credentials. If you've changed from a default password, the zone utility will need to know the new credentials at least to be able to get to that switch. Okay, so it gives you that kind of smart connectivity, gives you that visibility. You can also drill in. So here, from the example here is where with the zone's utility not only is part of this application, but it's also built into like the switch. So in this case, in the switch, it has the ability to drill in. So if you log on to the GUI of the 1920, you're able to drill into the access points that are connected to it as well. So you can discover neighboring devices. So in this particular example, you'll see the access points that are connected to which ports. So then that way you can then drill in as well. You can do power cycles, you can reset them, whatever you may need to do to be able to get to that. You can click on the IP address there and it will drill into the GUI and it accesses those devices through the interface. So you can cycle through, you can reset them as well. So standalone management, is your typical, management scenario like you would deploy now. In the cloud management scenario though, of course, everything will report back to the cloud, which allows for you to then, make changes, provision, be able to update, do firmware, get visibility logs, etc., all in one service interface. And we call that Nebula. Nebula is our Zyxel cloud. So Nebula, I wanted to cover a little bit about that. It consists of several pieces. One is the NCC, it's the Nebula Control Center. That in the hybrid switches will come basically as a free version. So there's a free Nebula cloud, which is the same cloud. It's just basically less feature functions than the full, but it should be enough to compete against the kind of the lower end cloud models that you may see in the market right now. But if you're looking for more of a Meraki-like or up in that kind of space of cloud solution, then the full Nebula cloud can be upgraded too. So you can migrate them to the full-fledged Nebula quite easily. So it consists of cloud access points, cloud switches like you saw here, both in hybrid form or as just natively cloud, or security appliances like our NSG that will do security UTM functionality. It also consists of a mobile application, and that mobile application allows for you to do setup without even unboxing the device. So you can actually register the device via using the app, and it will enter the serial and MAC address real easily through using of either you can type it in or you can use the QR code reader to read the QR code either on the box or on the belly label. And that can be then added to a certain site that you're managing, and then that gets uploaded to the cloud. The cloud then says, hey, this belongs to this site, gets this configuration. So the moment the product comes online, it will grab all that information, get the latest firmware, everything will get provisioned automatically. So you don't even have to power up that actual device. So you can just basically register it, put it into that site, and then if you want to, you can just ship it off, let the installer do the install, or you can create a little install kit for the end customer who says, plug this wire into your WAN or into your LAN network where you get your internet, and plug this power cable in, and then you're ready to go, right? So you can set up that to really maximize how the product is getting deployed. So you can get up and running in minutes. So as long as the product is connected to the network and it has internet access to the internet, the product will automatically call home. It basically says, hey, who am I belonging to? It calls directly back to the Nebula cloud, and then the Nebula cloud goes, okay, you belong to so-and-so on this customer site. So then it puts you into that, gives you the configuration for that site, gives you the firmware that you need. So in just a few minutes, it'll reset, reboot, and now have the identity of that site. And of course, for new installations, that's great in its own, but also it's great for when you have maybe a dead spot or the customer is looking to expand out and need more coverage somewhere else. You can basically just send them another access point and say, here, plug it into the network in the area that you need coverage, and you've already pushed it in the cloud and you've made it part of that group for that customer. It will automatically get the configuration it needs with the SSIDs, everything like that, be able to go online and now give you coverage. And of course, from your perspective, you're able to manage them anytime. Of course, anywhere you have internet access, whether you have it on a tablet, on a laptop, whatever, or even on a mobile device, you can go to the GUI and be able to see real-time information about your network that you're either managing directly or your individual customers. So you can build it out into multiple layers to manage kind of multiple tiers of different customers, different sites, different organizations. So it's really organizational based. So you can have different customers, different orgs, and in each one of those orgs have different sites if you wish. So it depends on just what you need and how you're managing your network, and you can choose those options. It's flexible. And we always say the product is as easy as 1, 2, 3, but it's not in any one of these orders. With Nebula, the beauty of it is as you can do any of these steps in any order. So you can go 2, 3, 1 if you want, which is probably typical. People will register their device like number 2. They'll pre-configure it in the cloud by either creating a clone, cookie cutter. So that's the beauty of the cloud is you can create a cloned, let's say you have a dental office, application, or dentist office, for example. You can create a cookie cutter site, which then you can clone over and then apply it to an existing, to this new customer, and be able to just say, hey, tweak some of the WAN information if you need, tweak the SSIDs, and you're ready to go. You just assign those APs and gateways and switches to that new office, ship those off to get installed, or have your installer go out there, and then you don't need a very technical or highly technical network guy to go out in the field. You just need somebody who knows or is competent to be able to plug in ports in the right places, and then everything is already done by your engineers that are sitting back at your NOC who've already pre-configured the device before it even hit the field, right? So that's the beauty of that. Then once they plug it in, again, it calls home, gets all its configurations, and it's ready to go. So really, we want people to take advantage of it. And what Nebula Flex at least allows for you to do is get that feel of the cloud, get the customer into the cloud, gets them the visibility, the reporting, the dashboard on usage, usage of PoE, any threats, especially if you're using our security products, any threats that are coming to the network, be able to manage and change and update, hotspot capabilities in the wireless, all done in the cloud. And the free Nebula allows for you to get access to a lot of those kinds of function and features. So it gives you a taste of that. And then, of course, then you can upsell them to the full Nebula. Or if you're, again, managing, doing a managed service, that makes sense for you to just have that functionality already in the system so that you can then better serve your customers. So that concludes maybe the introduction of the products themselves, just kind of more of a high level. We do have comparison sheets and such that I'll let our marketing partner, our marketing folks know about, so that they can email that and make that available to you folk. To be able to see comparisons of all the different models versus a lot of the different competitor models that are in that space, so that you can do a great intelligent comparison. Typically our partners will say, hey, what does this compare to? I'm deploying this such and such switch. Which one would be the closest match, right? So we'll have a quick comparison for those models and be able to help you with those feature functions that really make Zyxel stand out in that case. So we'll provide those for you. I wanted to talk just introduction to our partner program as well. If you're not a partner yet, I encourage you to take advantage of being a partner. It doesn't cost anything as a partner. So if you're a new partner with us, you're automatically sitting in the silver tier, which will give you 16% off of distribution pricing. So again, it doesn't cost you anything. The only thing that you have to do within the next 6 months is to be able to have 6K in sales. So that's really, 1K a month in sales in terms of Zyxel product. That's probably like a couple of switches and a security appliance. And, this will, like, pretty much one project could probably get you pretty close to that. So if you're already doing business to doing 1 or 2 projects, that would come into play. So that would help you to maintain, whoops, let me go back. That help you to maintain that system, maintain that discount that you're looking for right there. But of course, we would love for you to get to the gold. That would give you additional 4%, so it'll give you 20% off of it distribution. But in order to maintain that or being able to get that tier, you have to go up to 12K for that half year. So again, it's beneficial because you do gain access to lead referrals, systems engineer access, advanced replacement, etc. If you have any questions about our partner program, go over to vars.zyxel.com and find out more information about that, or to sign up for our partner program. Take a look at that. And also, there's a lot of information there. Once you become a partner, that's where you will go to do deal registrations for extra margin, or if there's competitive bids that are going on, or to lock in the bid for your account if you have a partner, a customer that you're working with. At this time, I will answer any other questions that are still in the Q&A queue. Let me take a look here. So Matthew had asked, will the 1920 8HP be, oh no, that already answered that one. Let me go to the bottom here, sorry. Any plans to add or expand 10 gig core switches like the XS 1920-12? Yeah, there are plans for an XS 30, I think it's the 3800 series, which replaces our XS 3700 series. If you're looking for 10 gig copper, so that will be the 10 gig copper and 10 gig fiber, kind of a hybrid in terms of what it has. It's not hybrid in terms of Nebula Cloud, but hybrid in terms of it has both SFP plus copper ports, SFP plus fiber, and also 10 gig, 10G base T copper ports as well. So that what you want to look for is all of our XS series. So we'll have a couple of products that will come out in that space. Mostly in December, I think, is when the XS 3800 will be available. Now the XS 1920-12, there's still discussion on if there's going to be another. There is 10 gig capable product that will be coming out next year as well. So that's just something that to kind of tease or hint about, which is not yet available, but it will be next year. We'll have some multi-gig functionalities. Seth asked about, can I send the previous slides with distribution lists? Yeah, we can send that. We'll send the whole, we'll have make the slide deck available for you guys to be able to download in PDF form to review. So you could take a look at that. What is the retail street price for the 1920? I have to double check what it is. It's going to be, I think it's going to be just a little bit more than obviously the 1900-8 HP because of the higher power budget or the similar power budget. But with that Cloud Flex, it's but not going to be that much more. I can double check for you, but you can reach out to our sales team. They have it on the price list, so they can give you that information a lot better. But it's going to be very competitive when we looked at the pricing from that, you know, versus the competitors that are out there. Yeah, it's going to be very competitive. In some cases, kind of stupid and competitive. But we wanted to make, you know, a big splash in the market. We wanted to make sure that, hey, the product makes sense. It fulfills a very specific need, and be able to have not only a cloud version that's standalone and cloud, that gives it a great advantage. We believe, again, in the hardware that we've made as a quality product. And again, even the 8-port will have a lifetime warranty on it. Are there any other questions? If there are, please use that Q&A section. I'll try to get to those. If not, we will be ending the webinar. Again, I thank you for attending this webinar. Again, Zyxel looks to be your networking ally, and we would love to work with you and find ways that, you know, we can help you with your network deployments with your customers. So if you have any questions, for me, my email is that's TRI @Zyxel.com. So reach out to me or to your sales rep, and we'll get you, hooked up with our sales engineers or whoever. We can get on a call with your customer. We do that pretty much all day, every day. Be able to get on the call, find out what your customer needs, what application he's doing, and then be able to help them decide, a good, better, best option for that network deployment. So, utilize this resource, utilize us because we're here to help you. And I know a lot of competitors may have a hard time if you're not at a certain tier level or if you're not paying in support contracts and such. They're not going to help you very much, but we're here to help you as much as we can. So please take advantage of that. Again, appreciate your time. I know your time is precious, and so we are very grateful for your time today. So thank you again. We'll see you again next time at another Zyxel webinar. Take care.